Well, speaking of the president, he has made you the poster child on how not to fix Social Security. He enjoys talking about that. I don't know if you've heard of it. And I'll paraphrase you. You have said it should not be a mandatory spending or yearly automatic increase, but an annual budget review. So how would that change or prevent the looming solvency crisis? What needs to be prioritized?
Okay, so we have two categories of spending, discretionary and mandatory. So I'm using the words that we already have in terms of describing what we do with spending that is all on budget. And my main point when I made that comment, turning discretionary isn't to make Social Security discretionary, it's to have everything on budget, so we're looking at total spending. I mean, the point I was making to reporters during the omnibus, nobody even knew how much we were spending. Nobody knew. They knew, well, so we'll go over $1 trillion. Well, no, that's just a discretionary part of our budget. Okay, so my point, and again, it was completely taken out of context, I understand it, but my point was we need to understand the total amount of government spending every year. And if you want to save, and I do, I want to save, all I've ever said about Social Security is I want to save it. The greatest threat to Social Security is the massive debt and deficit spending. When this trust fund runs out, we've already crossed the Rubicon of benefits are exceeding revenue. And so the trust fund, and that's just an accounting gimmick, by the way. It's all that is. There's no real assets behind that. It's just treasury bonds that have no value to the federal government. It is a legal Ponzi scheme. I'm happy to defend that comment all day long. I mean, again, that's what a Ponzi scheme is. You get in early investors. You don't invest the money for them. You spend it, but you bring in the current investors and you pay off the former investors, right? That's what but this is a legal Ponzi scheme. Okay, so the greatest threat to that Social Security is when the trust fund runs out and you have nothing now to redeem to plus up the benefits. Will we have the financial wherewithal out of the general fund to honor those promises? That's why we need to be concerned about the debt and deficit. When that happens, we'll be about $50 trillion in debt according to Biden's budget. And by the way, the greatest threat we have in terms of a debt crisis is it's happening right now under our nose. Saudi Arabia does a deal with China. They'll be selling oil to China, not using US dollars, not petrodollars. They're going to be using China's currency. Brazil's entering those types of agreements. When the US dollar ceases to become the world's reserve currency, we are in deep, deep trouble because we won't be able to print these dollars. We won't be able to keep our interest rates artificially low. And for every 1% increase in interest rates, our cost of borrowing, our interest goes up $320 billion. That's a $32 trillion worth of debt. That'll just keep increasing. If we were just to return to the average interest rate we paid on US government debt in the last 3 decades of the last century, 5.3%. That added about $1.2 trillion just to interest expense, which is about what we spend on Social Security a year. We're spending more now because we had about a 5.7% inflationary increase because of all this deficit spending. Again, this one, again, I appreciate we're talking about these things because it's a serious business. We are putting our nation at risk with all this deficit spending and just whistling about it.